Well, we're back again. Um, couple days before Christmas. So first of all, for everyone listening, Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. If you celebrate Hanukkah, I think Hanukkah starts like on Thursday this year.
Happy Hanukkah, happy Kwanzaa. What else can we
Kwanzaa.
say?
Happy holidays, just in general. Um, Special time of year, obviously. You know, Christmas season or holiday season is always good when it comes around, but even more fun for us because I feel like sports are always like really, usually in like their peak season. So, I mean, besides baseball, but sticking with football, um, well, I mean, it's a little bit tough, I guess, for you to talk about it right now,
It's
Matt.
officially official now.
Yeah, officially official. After this past week, week 16 wrapping up, and unfortunately, the Cowboys are now eliminated from the postseason. They will not be participating this year, unfortunately. Um, I don't think anyone's too surprised, especially after the Dak injury, but I will say that this team has been playing better as of late. So hopefully this is some momentum to carry this team into the offseason, you know, keep some hopefully some continuity on both sides of the ball. Look to rebuild through the draft like you guys, typically try to do because it's not really in free agency, but um anyway, Matt, now that season's kind of over, even though weirdly you came off a pretty big win against a Bucks team that was hungry and desperate for a win. I think that said a lot. But yeah, why don't you run us through how you felt this past game, even knowing you guys are now officially knocked out.
Okay, wait for it.
Yep, I saw that
Gotta
one
bring it
coming,
out.
man.
Yep. But for those of you that cannot see, Cooper Rush has made his appearance back. The pitcher is back. But that's really kind of what I thought when I was watching this game. He really got he really got us going early.
Might have been his
Set the
best
tone.
game I've seen.
I wouldn't say his best game. I think there's a couple game. I mean, he's had a couple game winners. He's beaten Joe Burrow. He's beaten Kirk Cousins on prime time in his first start. So he's had some other big games. This is in a sense, it's a meaningless game for the Cowboys, but to say the least, I mean, he was really special. I would say for about three quarters. The first half, especially, because what I thought was really impressive with Cooper Rush is Rico Dowdle has been kind of our guy lately. RB1, 100-yard games in the past three games coming into Sunday. But he had a dud, 23 yards rushing as a team. Really didn't do anything. You had 31 yards rushing. And with that being said, okay, maybe they're taking it away. Maybe they're daring Cooper Rush to beat them. And he answered the bell. He made enough throws early to give them a lead. And that was that. I mean, I thought the touchdown pass that he threw, that was unbelievable throw. That might have been the best throw I've ever seen him make.
Yeah,
It
that
looked
was
like
that was a dot.
it was a sidearm pass. You always say, "Oh, anybody can throw a 5 yard side." Well, that was a absolute dime. A 20. I don't know how. I forget the exact yardage. Absolute dime over the middle of the field, sidearm, falling on the back leg, looking like Aaron Rodgers a little bit. I mean, just textbook. I mean, really, Dak Dak can't do that. I'm just saying. Dak is probably a better quarterback. We're not going to get into a debate on that. But there's some things that Cooper Rush does that's a little quirky compared to what Dak does. Dak is more of he'll play within himself. But Cooper Rush has just a little bit of pizzazz when he throws the ball, I think. So it was good to see that. Another good thing that I saw on Sunday, CD Lamb looking like one of the best receivers in football, making tough catches, outrunning guys, basically beating guys at the line of scrimmage. He had a 100-yard game, almost had a touchdown too. So got tackled at the one, but he's looking great. I think him and Cooper Rush are starting to get a little bit of a chemistry going, later in the season. Yes, it's a little too late for that, I guess, but better late than never in a sense where we can see CD still kind of, playing hard. And that says a lot about your leaders, Micah Parsons, CD Lamb. If those guys are still balling, CD, I know he's banged up with the shoulder injury, but he's still grinding it out there, being there for his team. So I love to see that, honestly. Um, but I think for one thing, he's been having really big first halves. And then for some reason in the second half, we just start going away from him. And that's when our offense kind of just stalls a little bit. So in this game was a perfect example. We had 23 points at the half. CeeDee Lamb was literally the guy. Second half, almost non-existent. And I didn't really see anything differently from Tampa Bay to kind of just like not throw him the ball. Like I still think we should have got him more touches, more targets, get him the ball in space and let him do his thing. But they did just enough in the first half to hold up on that. But I will say what was the most impressive thing to me outside of Cooper Rush and CD, the defense. The defense is playing, I will say, pretty good. Um, this Bucks offense, I mean, might have had one of their best games coming into this week. Playing obviously for the division. They're controlling their own destiny for the playoffs. Mike Evans is back healthy. Bucky Irving and Rashad White looking like a nice tandem duo at running back. McMillan, the rookie receiver, is kind of bursting on. I mean, they got all these guys that are just able to make plays. And for Dallas to not only kind of contain them, but was really good was they were able to force turnovers. That is the Dallas Cowboys defense when it's at their best, being able to take the football away. And we did a lot of that yesterday in critical situations, especially late in the game. Jordan Lewis, a guy that I rag on, I would say, as a Cowboy fan, made an unbelievable play. I thought it was a deep ball touchdown. He just took it away. I really didn't understand how he did that, honestly.
That was a great play.
Terrific play. And then obviously, the one that went kind of viral, at least the game sealing strip by Deron Bland on this really quirky play that was pretty unreal. But even that one, when I saw it, I was like, oh, he got the ball? Was he not down? But when they showed the replay, it was perfect timing. And I don't even know if you can teach that, but maybe Mike Zimmer was doing something because I haven't seen guys like that ripping for the ball, trying to, force fumbles, force turnovers, like Maris Lufau punching balls out, laying out guys over the middle. Like that is just what you want to see. Micah Parsons is getting in the backfield, causing havoc. So if we can build on this, going into next season, especially over these last, we got 2 games left. I would have to heavily consider trying to bring back Mike Zimmer. And I'll get into it in the season recap in a couple weeks when the season is officially over. But if this continues and we see this gradual improvement and players are at least kind of getting comfortable in Mike Zimmer's system, it's something that I think I never would have guessed after the first 6 weeks of the season. But it's something to consider. I think Zimmer has kind of put himself in that conversation to have an extension with the Cowboys as a DC. Definitely not a head coach. Still think I have an opinion on that. I'll save that for another time. But Mike Zimmer has got his boys turning the ball over, playing a little more physical. So if we can build on that over the last 2 games and kind of set a culture defensively, that is going to go a long way into next year. So I would say a great performance by the defense. because we played Carolina, we played the Giants, right? Like, what are people going to say? Like, oh, they're the Giants, they're the Panthers, but they did it against the Buccaneers, who are a potential playoff team winning the division at the time, a hot team coming in, and you do it when your team is officially eliminated. You get the news before the game. So credit to them. Credit to them for playing hard, coming out. It wasn't a pretty game, but they got it done. And as a fan of the Cowboys winning, I love to see that. So hopefully, I mean, we'll play the Eagles next week. As much as I really, in a sense, want them to lose to not ruin the draft pick, it's always nice to beat the Eagles, especially if we can prevent them from getting the 1 seed. So
Oh
you
yeah,
can always play
and
spoiler.
we don't know if Jalen Hurts is playing either with the
Yeah.
concussion, right? So
So
might be a Cooper
yeah.
Rush versus Kenny Pickett affair.
Ooh. And if that's the case, give me Cooper Rush all
Yeah,
day, any day.
I'm on board with that. Give me Cooper Rush as well. But
Yep. But
yeah,
my season's over, so I can't really get too high, too low. But
do you have a
really
team?
impressed.
Do you have a team you're gonna cheer for, or at least maybe hope to see win? Because I feel like that's what always happens when your team is out. Like you find yourself rooting for. Maybe we'll wait for the playoffs to get solidified, but it's like, oh, who do I want? To win their first ring, or who do I not want to win? So I'm gonna cheer for the other team. But
I
if
think,
it was
yeah.
the current playoff
Hmm.
seedings. Do you have a team right now that you would say I wouldn't mind if I saw them or this player get a ring or this coach or this franchise get a ring?
I will say, being a Cowboys fan, I'm not in the playoffs too much. I don't make deep runs, so I always end up cheering for Tom Brady's team, whether it was the Patriots or the Bucks. But because he's retired now, I don't have that guy that I like. Yeah, he's him. But I think this year I tend to cheer for Josh Allen, and I think it's strictly because he's on my fantasy team. And I don't know, that's a little biased, I think,
Yeah.
but he's a talented guy. He has this narrative of he can't win the big game. So I want to see him get over that hump. And I want to see him beat the Chiefs
Mm,
and do it
more
against
than
the team
anything.
that yeah,
You know, I
yeah.
I hate to agree
Well, I
because,
like Lamar too.
they're
I'm
the
a Lamar
rival.
guy
Yeah,
too. So
Lamar would be great. Lamar would be great too. But I mean, the Dolphins are still in it, so I'm not going to say it yet. But it'd probably either be the Lions or anyone but Mahomes in the AFC. So that's probably how I would feel at that
yeah, the
point.
NFC, anybody but the Eagles. And then the Commanders, and then everybody else. Just don't let the Eagles win.
Yeah. Well, I'll let you have your long spiel when the season's over. We'll both kind of do a season reflection when both teams are officially out. But somehow, Matt, I don't know how, but this Dolphins team
They heard the rant last week,
is
and you're like,
not
okay,
dead.
fine.
They're somehow not dead. They should be dead, but I mean, they're basically they have a pulse. I can say that. I think right now they have a 4% chance to make the playoffs. If you watched any of that game, I think Tony Romo broke it down like 5 times how the Dolphins are able to make the playoffs. But for this week, all you need to know is that obviously Miami needs to win out. That's a given. Um, so we need to win against the Browns. Not going to be an easy game in Cleveland, in that weather. And we know kind of how the narratives go with this Dolphins team in cold weather. So a chance to put at least some of the cold weather narratives away in this one. But nevertheless, they're a better team than Cleveland. Their quarterback situation's a mess. They need to win this upcoming game, right? Next, I think we really are going to need um, kind of touched on it before we started recording, but on Christmas Day, the Chiefs play the Steelers in Pittsburgh and actually kind of need Russell Wilson and the Steelers to win that game so that the Chiefs drop to 2 losses. and are still alive and trying to play for that 1 seed, because essentially the Chiefs play the Broncos, and I need the Broncos to lose out. Like, that's the only way it's going to happen now. So the Broncos play Cincinnati this week, and Cincinnati and Joe Burrow, they're still fighting for a playoff spot too. So it's still all on the table for them. And I think the Bengals have been playing better as of late. The Broncos, started off pretty hot the last game against the Chargers, then kind of fizzled out at the end. And I think the Bengals are kind of rolling right now. I don't think a lot of teams would want to play them right now either if they sneak into the playoffs. So that's a scary team. I'll be rooting for Joe Burrow, and obviously our Hawaii boy Andre Yoshivas on that team. So hopefully they can pull out a win there. And yeah, the rest of the way, Matt, we're gonna need a lot of help. The one though that I think is gonna end up coming back to bite us is we still need the Colts to lose one of their next 2 games. And don't get me wrong, I don't trust this Colts team at all. Like, they have been so
A roller
inconsistent, all
coaster.
roller coaster by definition this whole season. They look at times really good, kind of impressive, and at times terrible. Anthony Richardson, I think people are starting to figure out that he's not the best, thrower of the football at this time and moment in his career. I don't even think he threw the ball 15 times last game. But that doesn't really matter if Jonathan Taylor is going to run for whatever 200 plus yards in a game. So that is a scary one to me, Matt. And just going back to when Tua was out, can't believe they lost that game. The Dolphins lost that game to Indy. I think it was like Tyler Huntley versus, I'm pretty sure Anthony Richardson played actually, but it was a disgusting game in that one. Should have won, but that one's gonna end up being the one to bite them in the butt if they don't make the playoffs, because the Colts play literally the 2 worst teams in the NFL these next 2 weeks. And both teams, I'm not going to say it out loud, but they have their tank leaders leading the charge with Drew Lock and Mac Jones. So, you know, I think really if it's going to be anything, it's that Jags game, just because divisional opponents, right? Like, you never really know. And I think it was that, was it last year where the Colts played spoiler to Trevor Lawrence and the Jags, I believe, at the end of the year last year, and beat them so that they didn't make the playoffs. Right? Because the Jags started off so hot last year, completely fizzled out, choked in the playoffs, and I'm pretty sure it was against the Colts.
Was it the Colts? Colts or Titans, right?
Yeah, it
One of those two
was.
teams. No, wait.
Oh, no, 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 no! It was
Texans played the Colts, right?
right, right, right. No, what am I thinking of then? Oh,
Maybe it was Tennessee. Was it Tennessee?
it was the maybe it was Tennessee. I think you're right. I think it was.
It was Will Levis.
Yeah. What? I can't find the game now. 2023.
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah, because the
You're right. You're
Colts
right. It
they
was
played the
Will. Yeah, yeah,
Tex.
yeah.
It
It
was
was
Will
Will
Levis.
Levis. Yep. It was Will
Damn.
Levis. Yeah. Or actually, sorry, it was still Ryan Tannehill actually at that time. So anyway, never mind. Forget what I said. But
Wow.
divisional games still, right? Always going to be tough, no matter who's playing. Um, but I can't see the Colts losing to the Giants or the Jags. I just can't see it, and I think that's going to be the one. Unfortunately, and I think the NFL is going to be pissed about this too. They don't want to see the Colts when they could have either Joe Burrow or a still exciting-ish Miami team. You got Tyreek and all them guys, but the Colts just have been, like you said, Matt, so up and down this year, and they look really good, and then they look really bad, and no one really knows like what to make of them. So
But that should give you some hope.
I mean,
Like, yeah, they might play good one game, but then the other game, you never know.
it does give me hope, but the Jags and Giants are literally at the bottom of the league. So I just it's hard for me to believe that they lose one of those two. I'm praying for a miracle at this point. I'm glad to still have a heartbeat, but that's kind of the scenario that Miami needs to get in. So we'll check in again next week, but let me get to the game real fast, the game itself. You know, first off, I usually start with some of the good, and this time I'm going to give the good to I can't believe it, the Miami Dolphins run game. I haven't seen it, Matt. It literally feels like 2 months that they have broken 100 yards rushing. Like it's probably been relatively sooner than that. Like, but I swear for the past 4 or 5 weeks I've been saying, oh, 60 yards again, 50 yards again rushing. And, you know, it's just so interesting because if you haven't watched the Niners this year and kind of know the narrative of the Niners for the past several years, they have this vaunted defense, this stout front, can't run on them. They usually have two big guys clogging up the middle. But if you watch this game, Matt, I mean, the biggest holes Devon Achan has seen, I want to say almost all season. Um, Gashing them 7, 8 yards a carry, and then obviously finally, hits the home run to put the game away. And honestly, that saved one of my fantasy games, which I'll get to in my tribute because I think I had the luckiest week of fantasy football ever. So I'll show you that later. But
Damn, wish I could say
um,
the same.
but yeah, the game itself, I mean, what a difference it made when this team is able to run the ball, play action, and that offense we were used to seeing last year, right? Where they hit these in-breaking routes, whether it's to Tyreek or this week was Malik Washington, even Devon Achan caught one. When the linebackers are able to sink in just a little bit and open up those windows for Tua to, throw with his anticipation, I feel like it made such a big difference this week. So yeah, I wanted to shout out this O line. I think this is the best I've seen the O line look all year. In run blocking, in pass protection as well. Tua didn't get sacked once the whole game. So really good to see that out of this team and this offense. Like I said, maybe it is a little bit too little, too late, but good to see that at least going because as we've come to see throughout the playoffs for the past several years now, got to be able to run the ball in the playoffs. I don't care how good your quarterback is. When the temperature drops, you got to have a running game to lean on at least a little bit. So at least it's encouraging to see. And I want to say would be good going into next year, but if we are knocked out, next week, then at least there's that caveat that okay, well the run game hasn't completely disappeared. But another thing I wanted to bring up, I was preaching this, during the Packers game. It's what drove me insane. But finally saw Jeff Wilson get the ball in a short yardage situation twice. And it's like, oh my gosh, shocker. When we don't give it the ball to our smallest running back, we have a easier time picking up these third down conversions of like 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2. Like who would have thought, Mike? Great idea there. Glad, somehow that got moved up the chain. Raheem Mostert finally had some life again. I know he's had some fumble issues this year, but I really liked, the effort that he gave in his limited playing time. But more than anything, I think with Jalen Waddle going down, it was really interesting to see how they used Devon Achan also out in the slot in the wide receiver position. I think that's a great alternative, to be able to get some of these other running backs, Jalen Wright, Raheem Mostert, Jeff Wilson, some touches during the game and, keep Devon out there on the field as a threat. I really like that wrinkle that they threw in. I hope they kind of utilize that more next season. Not necessarily like, a Debo role, but he's just, you got to find ways to get the ball in his hands. And honestly, it's kind of crazy. He has some of the best hands on the team right now too. He can make the contested catch, and he runs pretty good routes. So I don't know. Maybe he will. I think they should try to convert him to like a true hybrid type of player, because I think he
Like a
has that
CMC at the
CMC.
Panthers.
Yeah, like I really do think he has that potential to split out, um, and even give some corners some problems if he can clean up some of the route running on his end. So that would be an interesting thing to look forward to next season. But obviously, I think he's been the best offensive player this team has had all year. Um, just so explosive, and he finally, like I said earlier, hit the home run ball. And then got to get to Tua. I thought, he played pretty well. Um, I actually thought he had some of his best throws I've seen, this season in this game. Just Tyreek couldn't catch like two or three of them, which was crazy. The first one, Matt, I don't know if you watched the game at all, but
I
there was
saw the highlights.
there was a third
That
down.
hurt my fantasy team
Oh, definitely hurt because
big time.
there was a third down. I think it was on the first drive of the game. Tua hits Tyreek in the chest on one of those in-breaking routes. Would have picked up the first down, probably got some more yardage. Hits him in the hands, drops it. Okay. Then another one later, which I thought was probably could have been Tua's best throw of the season. He has Nick Bosa and I think another defender charging in his face. He's at like the 35 and he just flips it up to the back corner to Tyreek. And I don't know if it was Travarius Ward, but one of the DBs just gets like a smidge of a fingertip on the ball. And I mean, okay, did it affect the trajectory coming down a smidge? Yeah. But you still would like to see some kind of, potential catch off of that. I mean, I get it was tipped, so I'm not gonna, kill Tyreek for that one. But even like if you're looking at the ball as it was coming down, it just seems like he was kind of like T-Rex arming it instead of like I don't know, extending it out. But that's whatever. That one's a little bit ticky tack. But the other one I thought was big too was the last drop that he had. Um, he had one-on-one on third down. Two, I mean, that actually is arguably his best throw of the year as well. I don't know if you saw this one, Matt. It was the fade route that he had one-on-one up the left side to the goal line. I mean, literally goes right through Tyreek's hand. The DB doesn't even catch it. Hits him right in the chest. Just unable to catch it. Just weird, a little bit of regression we've seen from Tyreek this year. I pointed out last week about the drops in these quote unquote big games, but I mean, I think just another couple times where we see him not be able to come up with the big play. So hopefully, they still got some time to correct it. Interesting. Tyreek kind of spoke on it. This week he's like, I gotta stop taking the vet rest days on Wednesdays and go practice and get reps in with Tua because I don't think I've been on the same timing as him, so it's my fault. Like I gotta get going. I know you don't want to hear this. Too little, too late for you, as a fantasy owner. But yeah, those are big points. Like you said, I'll excuse the tip one, but that's at least the touchdown catch. That's probably like a 9-point play right there, and then another probably would have been a 15-yard catch, so 2.5 right there. So that's another 11.5 points. I didn't see what you ended up losing by,
No,
but
I got killed.
oh, okay, well, I guess it
But
wouldn't have mattered.
still,
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, would have been nice, but I thought overall Tua played pretty well. He had one miscue on a snap. We want to see those completely eliminated, but took care of the ball in this one. No picks, no like throws that you're scratching your head about or anything. So thought that was really good. And then finally, Jason Sanders and the special teams unit. Jason Sanders, I think, had 5 field goals, couple 50+ yarders. Didn't miss an extra point. So he made all his kicks on the day. And obviously that came back and really helped us there. So want to tip my cap to him. Just on the last thing I need to get to defensively, and I'm not going to harp on the defense too much because I thought, Chop Robinson, came up with big plays. Zach Sealer again. This dude needs to be in the Pro Bowl, by the way. I know he doesn't get any love, but he is absolutely one of the best defensive tackles in the league, without a doubt. And then Calais Campbell having an impact. But it's unfortunate to say we might need to go shopping or drafting two safeties next year because I mean it was just a sad performance, especially I gotta say from Javon Holland, who was like my guy the past 2 years. You know, we see this growth from him in these different defensive systems, but just looking at the individual performances, you know, that they had, and more so on Javon because it was kind of the bigger plays. Twice getting essentially burned by Debo. He had a chance to tackle Debo on a third down in the open field. Debo didn't even see him, but he whiffs the tackle, allows Debo to get the first down. And then, really, the saddest one to me that kind of captured the whole thing was Debo's touchdown in this game, where he essentially runs through both of our safeties with another guy like hanging on him. And he's able to push like what was it, 3 yards or something like that into the end zone. Doesn't even end up going down. Like to me, that was kind of the epitome of like, oh my gosh, that's the kind of year it's been for these Dolphin safeties. Just haven't been good. Um, so I mean, we still got some time left, but I think he's kind of played his way out of Miami, unfortunately. You know, especially after we all remember that Black Friday Hail Mary pick six that he had. So that was kind of his last shining moment with the team. Kind of unfortunate, but I mean, we'll see. It's not over yet, but just I was shaking my head like, oh my gosh, we can't let a guy with two guys on him overpower you. Like, and it's not George Kittle. Like, if it's George Kittle, okay, right? And yeah, I get Debo is a strong dude. He's a tough dude. But you're telling me two safeties and a another linebacker or whoever that was, hanging on to him. You guys can't take him down or at least stop him before he scores. Like that was sad. That hurt. So, um, yeah. Anyway, Matt, still alive. We'll be waiting and watching this week because I need a lot of things to go our way. But I guess you're never really over or never really out of it until you're completely eliminated. But
So for the Dolphins, is it the Broncos? The Chargers, are they ahead like for
I
sure?
think the Chargers are now officially ahead. So kind of just preying
It's
on
all on Denver then,
it's
basically.
essentially now all on Denver. I mean, they're still tied. Um, but one of them, I think
Tiebreakers.
one of the teams has to lose out, if I'm not mistaken. But I think even if, well, if the Chargers lose out too, we could still sneak in. So it's doable. But they play the Patriots and the Raiders. So like they're both of them are playing like them and the Colts are playing like the four worst teams in the league right now. So whatever. But yeah, I'll be watching. So just praying. Literally, it's going to take a miracle now. Literally a miracle. But yeah,
Okay.
just have to wait and see. So yeah, Matt. With that being said, though, cover a little bit more NFL stuff. If you wanted to get to, let's see, I guess we can talk about two teams that were eliminated. Um, Unfortunately, one is yours, the other's your brother's. I don't know, bigger disappointment, the Niners or the Cowboys. It's kind of tough, but I'll just say right now, the Niners. I think um just have to be more of a disappointment. But I'll preface that by saying it's because, no offense, Matt, I had higher expectations for the 49ers going into the season than I did the Dallas Cowboys, especially especially after the the free agency slash off season that the Cowboys had, right? So um I'll just say based on how good the Niners have been, returning a lot of guys. I know the Ayuk thing was weird. CMC didn't play essentially the whole year. Trent Williams was in and out, and his contract thing was going on. But I mean, defensively, they didn't change too much. Um, so it's kind of odd to see them struggle as much as they did this year. Um, But I mean, overall, I kind of had higher expectations for the Niners, so that's why I'll say that they're the
Hmm.
bigger disappointment, quote unquote.
Yeah, I mean, I agree in the sense because yeah, you're right. How could they not have higher expectations? You're a team that just went to the Super Bowl. You lost in overtime in the Super Bowl, so you're right there, and you come back and have literally a Super Bowl hangover season. People can say, "Oh, it's injuries." Ayuk is out for the season. No CMC, basically the entire season. Trent Williams is in and out of the lineup. But in the case, if you're trying to make a debate, what is the main position in football? Quarterback. When you lose your starting quarterback, it's going to be hard for anybody. I don't care if you're the Chiefs or the Jaguars. Like, if you lose your starting quarterback, you're a quote unquote franchise player, it's going to be a rough season and it's going to
Oh
be a
yeah,
grind every single week. So
that's the
I'm
Dolphins.
not, I'm not saying, yeah, but I'm not saying, even with Dak, like we would have been exponentially better, but would we have had a little more hope? Maybe gotten a game or two in that tough stretch that we had? Possibly. Who knows? But, anytime you lose your quarterback, it's going to be tough. And Kyle Shanahan, has this narrative, right? He's the offensive guru, this mastermind of the West Coast offense. Uh, Plug and play Brock Purdy, he's the franchise guy. Let's see what he can do. He, I don't want to say he underachieved, but it's like, when Debo Samuel is not taking your screen pass 50 yards to the house, or CMC is not taking your running back screen, for 30 yards a pop or a touch, it's a little harder to, score the ball efficiently. So I'll say the Niners. Yeah, just really disappointing. I mean, I just think from even the locker room too, like the IU thing really started the whole season just kind of weird. Like he, I mean, they had to sign him, but just the process was ugly. Ayuk to his fault too. Like it wasn't clean.
Mm.
And then a couple
They going
weeks
to the
from this
Steelers.
season, yeah, is it the Steelers? But even like or was it last week or 2 weeks
Devondre
ago?
Campbell.
Like that's a locker room thing. Like what? I don't think I've ever, other than Antonio Brown, but when have you ever seen a player basically say, "No, I'm not going to play for my team" in the middle of the game?
Well, Deontay
Like,
Johnson did it a couple weeks ago
like
too, but
uh, that
I mean
is
that was a
true.
play. That was a play.
That is true.
That he didn't walk off the field. I don't think so.
Yeah, he didn't walk off the field literally, but that's unheard of from a team that has the culture, the foundation. So yeah, I just think that's a little disappointing. Like the whole culture thing with Dallas, it's been consistent for ever since Jerry Jones bought the damn team. So it's like nothing has changed. But the 49ers, it's like, okay, we go from this Super Bowl team, tight knit locker room, to just a lot of extra noise than usual, I think. So I will say though, I still think if Kyle Shanahan's there, Brock Purdy has a bounce back year, they'll be back in the playoff hunt next year for sure.
I
Like
agree.
can't count them out.
No,
But
no way.
is their Super Bowl window done? I really hope so.
I don't know. I just think the NFC is going to be real tough. Because I also think the Bears and the Panthers are going to be better next year. So, who knows, man? I
There's Panthers. If Shador's on the Giants, like
true. That's
I
possible.
don't know. Like the NFC has a lot of young. Well, Jaden Daniels is in the NFC already. Caleb Williams. So the NFC is gonna get a little younger with the quarterbacks. So God, Dak looks like a senior citizen right now.
Yeah. Well, I guess yeah. We'll just have to wait and see. Essentially what happens with the offseason. And but I think the Cowboys also, Matt, will be back. I'm not too worried. I think This might be a little bit of a wake up call for that management team up in Dallas. So I
Has
think
to
they'll
be.
go out and get some more weapons. You know, I think Rico Dowdle has blossomed into at least a roster spot on this team. Is he one of the elite RBs at this point? No, but I think he's a solid addition, to have on your team. You got to keep Cavante Turpin. I think been outstanding for you guys. Get him, find a way to get him the ball.
He's a gadget guy.
Gadget
You
guy,
need guys
just
like that.
just get him the ball. Um, but I think you add maybe one more receiver, one or two more receivers, bolster up that offensive line. I think with that coming back healthy, you guys should be, a threat again in the NFC. And then, like you said, same for the Niners. Sometimes they whiff, and then sometimes they hit home runs. When it comes to the draft, I think the Trey Lance, Brock Purdy is the ultimate, um, testament to that. But so yeah, I think they'll be back and motivated, hungry to win again. Because I still think, like you said, with that Shanahan system that they have, and the culture that they have, that they're a winning culture. This was just a weird, tough year for them. Happens to the best franchises, so I think they'll be back, contending for Super Bowl again soon. But yeah, Matt. Well, with that being said, I think that was kind of all the football we really needed to hit. Like we said, there's going to be some big games coming up. So, I guess we could end it real quick. The Michael Penix slash Kirk Cousins drama, and I just gotta say that after following Atlanta from when Marcus was there, like just some head scratching moves in Atlanta for at quarterback, the quarterback position, the past several years, right? I think after Matt Ryan left, they were kind of in shambles. Like they're still looking for that next guy, but I'll just preface it right when Marcus was there. It's like, oh, here's Desmond Ritter, like ready to take over at any time. And then when Marcus struggled a little bit, I remember Falcons fans, all you guys complaining, we want Desmond. Like, let's see what he got. Let's see what he can do in Arthur Smith's system and do all this and that. And well, we know how that worked out because guess who's not on the Falcons anymore? Desmond Ritter, right? And then okay, we're gonna sign Kirk Cousins 4 years with what was it, 150 guaranteed,
Something
something,
like that.
something like that. Oh, and here we go, sitting at number 9. We can go get a receiver. We can go get a running back. We can go. Well, I mean, they wouldn't get a running back, but we can get a lineman. We can get a defensive player right here. Nah, let's go take Michael Penix, the oldest rookie aside from Bo Nix in this draft class, who's gonna what sit behind Kirk for 4 years, or it's a contingency plan, but you're gonna waste the 9 pick on that anyway. Somehow, I don't want to say it worked out for the Falcons, but I guess it's a good thing they ended up having Michael Penix ready and available because Kirk has stunk the past, has it been 3, 4 weeks now? Um,
Yeah.
just multiple picks every game, and really unfortunate because I mean I like Kirk. I think he's a good dude, but this has just kind of been the ultimate Kirk Cousins experience, right? Like some weeks he looks really good, some weeks he looks really bad. It's been more bad than good as of late. So they decide to pull him and plug Michael Penix. But now it sounds like they're also going to cut Kirk and eat all this dead cap money, but they'll
I think they
save
have to
some.
though. Like
They'll
you
save
can't go
some.
back to him.
Yeah, and you can't keep him as a back. That's the most expensive backup quarterback in the league if you keep him, right? So, obviously Kirk is gonna. He'll. I think he'll find a position somewhere next year. I don't know which organization is going to be with, but I'm sure he will find a spot to play again. Will it be as a starting role? I think we'll have to see how everything fills out, especially with, you could even argue, a relatively weaker quarterback draft. I think really you got Cam and you got Shadur. that are kind of looked at franchise slash game changing quarterbacks, and then it kind of takes a little bit of a dip there. But yeah, quarterback opportunities will be interesting next year. But just I don't really know even what to make of it. I mean, they stomped on the Giants, but like I said, the Giants have nothing to play for. They got Drew Lock in there, leading the tank. So
I
um
think I was looking like obviously you're not expecting Penix to just throw for 5 touchdowns, 400 yards in his first start, whether it's the Giants or whoever he's playing. But I thought he was okay. Like he did enough to win the game. The defense obviously was terrific that day. He didn't really make any, I thought, dangerous throws at least. I mean, he had the one interception, but I'll give him a slide because
yeah, definitely give him a slide
Kyle
because I
Pitts,
think that yeah. Hey, I think we'll talk about it later, maybe in this off season, but is Kyle Pitts a bust, Matt? I don't know. We've given him the pass because how much of a freak he looked coming
this
out of
is the
Florida.
year.
Then how many times have we said that about Kyle Pitts, right? And this argue with Drake London's production. Darnell Mooney had a career resurrection with Kirk. And Kyle Pitts, yeah, he's looked better this year, but hasn't really blossomed into that tight end that we all were expecting him to be out of college. And finally, I think now Falcons fans are starting to say, like, Kyle, what are we doing here? Especially after that last one where I mean, he drops
Yeah, that was right
a
in his
gimme
hands.
and literally almost like ends up batting it straight to the Giants defender. So I don't know. Maybe Kyle Pitts is going to start to be looked at too.
Hmm.
But
Yeah. It also doesn't help that draft class in terms of receivers, it's one of the best receiving classes
crazy too because
in
I
recent
wanted
years.
I wanted Kyle Pitts to slide to the Dolphins in that draft, but looking back, I
That
mean,
was Waddle, right? That was at the
yeah,
Waddle
oh
pick.
yeah, can't be more
Well,
happy that
yeah.
we ended up with
They could have picked
Jalen
Waddle.
Waddle,
Obviously, Jamar Chase went right after.
but
CD Lamb.
I still think the big one was Penix Sewell kind of slipped in that one because
That's true.
he would have been a really good pickup for a lot of teams, right? But anyway, yeah,
Justin
Falcons,
Jefferson.
Justin Jefferson. Like you want to talk about a stacked wide receiver class. That might go down as one of the ones, Matt, right there.
Yep.
So
Judy.
um yeah, but with that being said, I think I think that's good, pretty good
I
on
think that's pretty
football.
good.
Yeah, we can transition on here.
We're just waiting for
Um,
the playoffs, right? I guess
oh,
as
100%.
casual fans, at least
Yeah,
for
but
me.
I still love it. We still love the playoffs. It's just so much fun. Um, but speaking of playoffs, talk about the other playoffs, college football playoffs. First ever 12 team college football playoff, Matt, and so far has been a disaster. I gotta say, I I mean, we made our picks. I forget. Did we have our picks, or was that what we had to cut from last week's episode?
No, we had the first round.
Oh,
First
so the
round
first
is
round was
officially
in.
submitted. Yep.
Okay, and so I think we essentially
I have
we
one
yeah, and
difference.
I had one difference, right? I think
Yep.
so. I think you had, or no, we both had Ohio State and Notre Dame. I know that for
No,
sure.
I picked Tennessee.
Oh, you picked Tennessee?
I
That was
picked
the one you picked?
Tennessee.
Okay. So what do we have the same? I know we had Notre Dame for
We
sure.
both I think we had all three the same except the Ohio State game.
Oh, okay.
So that was the difference.
Oh, right.
What a
Yeah.
dumb pick by me.
I mean, the Texas crazy that the Texas game ended up being that close because it didn't feel close at all the whole game. But I think it was kind of a backdoor cover, right? In that one. Um,
Yeah. I mean, Clemson,
well,
it was so bad.
Clemson
Like the
came
first
back. They
round,
came back,
yeah.
but
But
overall
they took the
underwhelming,
lead first. Like I think they were they the only road team that had a lead.
probably because Tennessee got absolutely throttled right off the gate. Um, yeah, it was 21-0.
Penn State, I mean, pick six after pick six to open the scorings.
Yeah.
And then Notre Dame had like a 90 plus yard touchdown run that kind of just got that going. So it's like, well,
Yeah. Oh, sorry. That was the kind of deceiving score that it was a 10-point game because I think Indiana scored a touchdown with like 30 less than 30 seconds left, but the game was essentially over already.
mhm.
So, not a good first round showing, I'll say, by this CFP committee, Matt. I don't know. I've been trying to think, why it ended up being such a disaster. Um, but
I do
like
think home
would
field makes
Ala
an advantage.
you're right. It probably does. Maybe that's something they're gonna have to look into changing, right? Like maybe they all need to be played on a neutral field because I mean the Penn State one you could tell, right?
Oh,
Like
Happy Valley whiteout is unfair.
is tough. But really these four home teams, like dominant home field presence, right?
hmm
Texas, Ohio State, Penn State, and Notre Dame. So I bet like that's a tough. Those are four tough places to play in. But regard, I think that does need to be discussed, Matt. But I I think we're gonna need to learn from this first round, because like I think the strength of schedule and opponents you play in the division are gonna matter. We're gonna need to figure out a way to figure out, which are really the best 12 teams in college football. Um, like I'm sorry, but SMU and Tennessee looked just completely outmatched. Like didn't even belong on the same field as Penn State and Ohio State. So I, it's kind of hard to judge with all the NIL stuff that we keep saying and the transfers and all of this, but I think that the committee is going to have to probably do a better job of evaluating teams, and not just looking at the record. Because I think you got to throw the record out. I think the quality of wins and the strength of schedule are moving forward going to be higher prioritized. I don't know how you feel about that, Matt, or like we said, we'll probably have a chance to kind of digest this whole, CFP after it's over, right? But it was an ugly first round and it was a tough start. Granted, like this thing is going to take some growing pains. Maybe you got to expand it to 16 teams. Maybe you got to I don't know, like change up some of the in-game or in-season, matchups and kind of give teams more challenges. I don't know. I don't know, but I think there's definitely going to be some changes after this year because I don't think this is like the opposite of what we wanted to see, right? We wanted to see the underdog or a good team, good games throughout the entirety of the CFP because right now it's like, well, what was almost the point of playing these, right? Like we could have just had an 8 team
Yeah, I guess
CFP
so.
with Texas, Ohio State, Penn State, and Notre Dame all winning anyway, right? So it's kind of pointless.
Well, I don't know, like it's a very early thing to say, but maybe the conference champions shouldn't automatically get a bye. Like maybe they can be in the playoff, like a guaranteed spot, but do they deserve a first round bye? I don't know. I think
And
that's
who
something
knows?
to consider.
That might end up hurting them too, because what they're gonna end up with, what, 3 weeks off or something like that? Like,
That's yeah, and we won't know until
yeah, I guess
the
we'll
next
see
round.
if the
Like
rust is gonna show
it's like the
from.
play, like Major League Baseball, typical. When the wild card team is hot, like you just kind of ride that wave.
Mhm. Yeah.
But
Well,
the matchup is set though. The Probably the biggest matchup I would say in college football this year.
yeah.
Get round two
Um.
of it.
Well, why don't we break those games down then, Matt? We'll go through the list here. I'll start with Texas and Arizona State though. Um, Easy answer for me, Texas. I think, yeah, they were at home, but the ground game was really good. I'll just be honest. I don't know if Arizona State has played a Texas caliber team this year. I know they have really good wins over some ranked opponents. They beat BYU, but I was never sold on BYU the whole year. I couldn't believe they were a top whatever team that they were whenever they peaked at. Um, but I don't know if they've played a team of Texas's caliber just yet. So I'm gonna give a pretty easy win to Texas in Arizona State. I think they even covered 14. Um, I'm still not 100% sold on Quinn Ewers. Like I still like Quinn Ewers, but I think just overall the team is just too good, too talented to lose that one.
Okay, so I have a question. Is this our next round picks? Are we
Yeah,
locking it in?
let's do our
Okay.
next round picks. So I got Texas.
All right. Why do I have a feeling we're going to pick the exact same four teams? I don't know. But in this round, I have to say Texas from, I think eye test matters a little bit too, honestly. Arizona State, yes, they have the good running back. But, Texas on paper still has the advantage by a landslide. So I kind of have to lean Texas. And I still think it's a little odd that, yes, it's a 4-5 matchup, but how is the 5 seed 2 touchdown favorites?
Mm-hmm.
A little shaky right there. So I'm going to go Texas in this one. I think it's a pretty easy prediction for me.
Okay. Well, I'll just tell you, I'll save the best one for last because we'll probably talk about that one the most. So next one, Penn State, Boise State. I
Okay.
have I gotta pick Penn State. I'm sorry. I know I love Ashton Genty. Personally, probably would have given him the nod in the Heisman, and I love Travis Hunter. But if I was voting, probably have to lean Ashton Genty. Also, probably biased because I saw him in person, but the numbers he put up were ridiculous. But even with all that being said, I still think Penn State finds a way to limit Ashton Genty. Like, I don't think he gets 200 yards, and I think he needs to get to 200 for Penn State to win. I mean, sorry, for Boise State to win. And I just don't see it happening. I think Penn State's just too well coached. Even quarterback though, like I don't even like Drew Aller that much either. I'm gonna be completely honest. Just when I've seen him play, I don't think he really needs to carry that team at all. But I like Drew Aller more than Madsen of Boise State because I mean his numbers are decent, like 22 touchdowns, 3 picks, but 2,700 yards throughout a 13 game season. Like he hasn't had to do anything all year. And if Penn State takes away Ashton Genty, like I think they're going to do, and put the ball in his hands, I've also seen him play quarterback firsthand, and against UH, not very impressive. Like missing some open throws, taking some bad sacks. Like I don't know. I don't really trust him as a quarterback. That's probably also because I haven't seen him, enough be an actual quarterback to carry that team because it's been the Ashton Genty show. But I think that matters as well. Like, to a certain extent, it's maybe not even his fault because if you're going to lean on a guy with 344 carries through the regular season anyway, like you really don't have to do much outside of be a game manager. And I can't trust a guy that I haven't seen in these clutch situations needing to, make a throw or, make a clutch pass or something. So that's why I'm gonna take Penn State.
Okay. So last week, because we had to cut it out, I will say I did pick Boise State in this, but because there's no official footage of it, and I watched a little bit of Penn State play SMU, I'm gonna have to switch that pick. As much
Gotta
as
pick Penn
I
State.
really want I really want Boise State to win. I
I
will
want
say
them
that.
to win. I'll say that too.
I
I
want them to
hope they
win.
win.
I will be cheering for Ashton Genty to run wild. But with what I saw Penn State do against SMU, it's going to be hard for me to not pick them against Boise State. I mean, that defense That was the most impressive defensive performance I thought for sure, hands down of the first round. And I thought SMU was a team that deserved to be in the playoff. And they were good. They were a good team. And for Penn State to make them look like they didn't even belong in this discussion of the playoff kind of just shows how dominant they can be defensively. And with what I've seen with Drew Allard, kind of like Maddox in a way, like, he doesn't have to do too much at times. They have a decent running game with Singleton and Allen. But at the same time, I have seen Drew Allard still kind of go, in a sense, toe to toe with Dylan Gabriel in the Big Ten Championship. He didn't pull it out, but it was a shootout. So he has the potential, he has the talent. It's just more about can he do it. Maddox, like your point, I just don't know. He might be better, but I just don't know. To and it's just unfortunate because you have this runner up in the Heisman Trophy running wild every single game. So why would you stop going away from him when it's working? Like you'd be a fool to do that. So I can't really say. I don't know enough about Maddox still to this point. So I think that defense of Penn State is going to be a problem. And with Abdul Carter, maybe future teammate of Micah Parsons one day, that's going to be a problem, I think, for really any team, honestly. So I think Penn State, unfortunately. Honestly, I figure we're going to have the same 4 picks. Like I can see it already. There's 2 more games to go.
Well, okay. Georgia, Notre Dame then. Who do you got?
Who do I got? I got Georgia. I'm going to pick Georgia.
You know what? I'll take Notre Dame in this one. Just because no Carson Beck. I mean, I think it matters. I'm not even a huge Carson Beck guy to start, I gotta say. But to lose your vet QB, you know, see the only hard thing is like, how am I gonna bet against Kirby Smart? Like
That's why.
I don't know. I don't know how to do that.
Riley Leonard is experienced. He's an experienced quarterback.
He is. He is. So I'll give him that. I think this is gonna be an ugly game. I'll just say right now.
Oh yeah.
Like if you like defense and running the football, watch this game. If you like the fireworks, don't bother. Because I think this could be like, I'm not even joking, this could be a like 15-9 or like
I was gonna say like a 2017.
20 to 17, or if even that. Like I think this is gonna be the hardest game to watch personally out of all of them, just because Georgia's defense is really good. Notre Dame's defense, I don't think they're great, but I think without Carson Beck, we'll see how much they trust
Stockton.
I think Stockton, yeah, that is sophomore or redshirt sophomore or something like that. See how much they trust him. I mean, Georgia's always going to have talent. Like that's just how it is. But I do think the quarterbacking and experience matters, especially in the CFP, as we kind of saw, right? Like Nico from Tennessee, like looked lost out there. Like that was tough. He just looked lost. But yeah, give me this one as my upset.
Okay,
I'll say that. So I'll lock that one in. But yeah, Matt, the last one, and this is tough. This honestly is the game that's scaring me the most for Oregon, because I think this is their toughest game that they're going to face out of all the teams remaining in the CFP. This is probably the toughest one they could have pulled, because Ohio State coming off of a dominating win against Tennessee. And honestly, Matt, I am scared of the amount of time off that Oregon is getting. Like, I think it's too much time, and maybe we'll see how it plays out for these top 4 teams. I think for Georgia it helps because it gives Stockton a little bit more time to get reps in and get used to being a starting quarterback and playing with the ones. But with a team like Oregon, who's so hot, right, or like had been playing so well, and then to just go ice cold, and you're facing the same guys, and yeah, you're scouting, and yeah, you're locked in, but that's a whole week of less preparation than the other game experience, than Ohio State is going to have. So this is the scariest one. You're not in Alton anymore, which can get rowdy. Um, on the road, playing on the Rose Bowl. The only thing I will say that I still have faith in this team is Dylan has played his best against the best this year, right? Said that last week. He's elevated his game when he's had to. So I'm hoping this is no different, but I will not be surprised if Oregon comes out a little flat or a little slow, just because, you know, I think it's a long time to be resting your guys.
Mm-hmm.
So, hopefully that means that they're ready to go, and no injuries or nothing like that is going to be holding them back, but a little bit scared of the rest and the fact that Ohio State have already played them. So they kind of know what's coming. It's the scariest one, but I'm still going to hold out faith that Oregon wins another close. It's going to be another close game, I think, but I think Oregon pulls it out somehow. It's going to come down to the last possession again, I think.
Yep, I think so. Um, I mean, I'm picking Oregon, but I'll admit I'm scared.
I'm
I
scared
mean,
too.
I truly think if whether it's Oregon or Ohio State, whoever gets out of this game,
Yeah,
you could easily say you might be the national you
I
might be the
agree.
national champion. Honestly, like on paper, probably I would say Ohio State is even more talented than Oregon on just pure talent alone. Oregon is very talented, experienced, but Ohio State, I mean, they had over 10 guys, I think, come back to college for this moment to try to win a national championship. So they have an NFL roster loaded at almost literally every position possible. And they have a young pool of talent led by Jeremiah Smith,
Dude,
number one receiving recruit in the nation.
that guy's a beast.
He is him, Ryan Williams, the two studs this year. I mean, they're going to be a handful when they get to the league in a couple of years. But there is one advantage, and you touched on it, that Oregon has that I will push my chips to the middle with, and that is the quarterback. Give me Dylan Gabriel over Will Howard. And that's the one guy that, yes, I did bash Dylan a little bit this year. Maybe a little spoiled because I saw Bo Nix execute Will Stein's offense to almost perfection, literally almost perfection. Dylan, it took him just a little bit, a pretty slow start, I would say. But the last few games, within maybe an exception towards the Wisconsin game on the road, he's been better. He's been better. He still doesn't have the deep ball that Bo Nix had to stretch the field that much. But he's been better. He's been better. Will Howard, on the other hand, as we've seen last week, he can look like an NFL talented quarterback. He can sling it around, and when you got Ibuka, Jeremiah Smith, and you got Henderson and Judkins running the ball, you can look pretty good at quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also the bad Will Howard where, he'll throw a couple picks. He'll throw balls into double coverage against Michigan. And let's not forget clock management
Clock management.
against the Oregon Ducks. I'm not saying he's going to do that again, but come on, you're the quarterback of the Ohio State, one of the premier college football teams in the nation every single year, and you pull a Dak Prescott, a Dallas Cowboy move, like that is unacceptable. Really, it's unacceptable for a team to do that of that caliber. So I think that also plays a factor. If you're Oregon, get Will Howard to be the bad Will Howard. If you do that, you have a good chance at winning the game. If he's locked in early and he has all day to throw, it's gonna be a long day for your defense. Let me tell you that. So that's the key. That really is the key right there. I think it's the quarterback play, who gets in their rhythm quicker, and who takes care of the ball. So I trust Dylan Gabriel in that situation. But it's gonna be. I don't even want to say it, but it's like, is it really gonna come down to Atticus kicking a game-winning field goal? Like, I mean, I think I might explode seeing. I watch Brandon Aubrey for a living. This guy is literally Steph Curry on the football field. It's like with Atticus, it's like Shaq shooting free throws. It's like it's a 50-50, literally. So but honestly, I could see it happening. I really could. Crazy. Number one team in the country isn't even favored too.
Yeah, we'll see.
OSU -2.
I still take I'll take the Ducks.
Yep.
Okay. Round two is locked in, Matt. We'll check back in. Um I guess it's actually gonna be a while, since it's next week. But we'll check back in a couple weeks on how those games go. But I think we can wrap on college football for a little bit here. So let's get to some of our shorter topics, Matt. The Diamond Head Classic is upon us now. You went, I believe, yesterday and today to watch UH play.
I
So
did.
give us the rundown. I'll chime in on the part I watched earlier, but why don't you give us your take on how the team looks so far?
Well, good competition, I would say. Playing Charlotte in the first game. Watching Charlotte play, it's like, I mean, I guess good for UH that you schedule them to be your first round matchup so you can try to win the tournament. But Charlotte was not very good, like not that impressive. And for UH, I thought they were the superior team, and they played very well. I thought the 3-pointers were falling. Marcus Green, a guy who's been, I would say, struggling from what he was expected to do. He was a 40% shooter, I think, last season coming into UH. Hasn't really shot the three ball that well, but he got hot uh, against Charlotte, kind of rode that wave early. And then, it was just, I don't want to say cruise control, but they were definitely controlling the pace of the game. Didn't really let Charlotte come back at all, consistently holding, a sizable, 15 to 9 point lead throughout the middle of the first half through the rest of the game. So I would say pretty good game there. But really the main focal point will be the game that you just watched and I saw in person. Second round, chance to go to the finals. They play Nebraska, a very good team, obviously, 9-2 now. They did beat Creighton. Creighton is a top basketball program this year. And for a while, I thought, wow, UH is, they're hanging in there. Like, they started off fast again. I think Marcus Green set the tone early, hit a couple threes, and then we got to like 22 points.
Oh
We're
my
up. Like,
god, that's when I was
okay.
watching.
And then,
Jeez.
yeah, and then that's literally when it just all went downhill from there. Honestly, it was like, holy crap. It's been like 8 minutes of game time play since they scored. Not even a free throw,
It was
scored.
literally 8 minutes.
8 minutes of game time. So in actual, like, on the clock, it felt like half an hour of, like, oh my gosh. Like, I mean, I talk about UH, but it's like, what are you thinking watching the broadcast? Like, what are they saying? Like, what are the
Well,
broadcasters
okay,
saying?
granted, I was watching it in the gym, so they didn't
Oh,
have the
okay.
sound. But I will just say, you brought it up, I think last week or the week before, something about their half court offense. Oh my god, what was I watching? Like, okay, I'll preface it. Not a X's and O's basketball guy, right? Like, I didn't really play that much organized basketball growing up. I don't know sets. I don't know, positioning and cuts on the floor and all the nitty gritty technical terms that I could probably explain, baseball in, for example. But I know enough to where when I'm watching and all we're doing is passing the ball 10 times on the perimeter and then we try to feed our big inside, and he gets collapsed on, and we have no answer for that, and we force up a contested three late in the shot clock. I know that's not good offense. Like, can we maybe get, I don't know, some cutters, penetration, like move the ball, create some space for some open shooters? I don't I don't know what was going on, but I was losing my mind. I really was the most disgusted. I don't know who shot it, but it was a late contested three, one of our like white dudes on the team, and he bricks it off the backboard. I don't know which
It
I
was
don't
Giddis, yeah,
okay,
number
yeah.
5,
And
Giddis.
I mean it was a heave because it was like late in the shot clock, but I'm just like, okay, well, I guess that's what this team really looks like against a quality opponent when it matters, because their defense was actually kind of holding up. I mean, Nebraska missed some open shots in that run, but weirdly enough, the game never got away. Like, it was 22-14, and you go 8 minutes without scoring, and you're only down, honestly, only down seven after an 8 minute drought. Like, that's not terrible. And you even close the half down too. So it's like, okay, maybe we'll get some momentum back going again. But yeah, that was disgusting to watch. I don't know how it felt in the arena, in the Stan Sheriff Center, but man, that was a brutal watch on TV. I mean, like, no one could create any separation. They're chucking up threes. Um, yeah, it was not good, not pleasant to watch.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of separation, like there really is one guy on this team that can create for himself, and that's Marcus Green. Everybody else is like it's like they're role players. Like they're gonna have to play a role. Like I really think it's Marcus Green. If it's late in the shot clock and there's you need a guy that can kind of bail you out at times. He's literally the only guy that can do that in a sense. So it's going to be tough when you play a more athletic, a bigger team, obviously. Um, but you touched on the offense. I was actually more upset about the defense and the coaching. We could say that, but in the second half, I think the Nebraska, their main guy, Bryce Williams, he finished with like 30 something points in the game. Couldn't stop him. But UH is putting Cody Williams on him. It's just seemed like every single possession I always see him on him. It's like, why on earth are we putting the smallest guy on the floor against him? Like, he's a pretty big guard. Like, he's just shooting over Cody, powering down, backing him down into the paint, doing whatever he wants. It's like, can we please put a bigger guy on him? Like, Akira Jacobs was playing a lot more today. He was actually playing pretty well. I think he's a chess piece. Like, he's in a sense, a 6'10" 3. Like, use that length and make him a defensive force for this team to guard on the perimeter. Like, he's a 6'10" guard in a sense. He's a two guard because he's going to shoot threes. That's his game. He's a pick and pop guy. So why can't we use that height to our advantage, especially when we play bigger guards? Like, sometimes, yeah, they use BD, but I just never understood why Cody Williams, of all people, yeah, let's put him on the other team's best scorer, who's not 5'10". He's not even RJ Davis height. Like, he's a solid 6'4", so he's just doing everything at will, out muscling him. Just terrible. And then, at the end of the game, when UH is kind of starting to let the game slip away, it's like, okay, we're down 5. Oh, we're down 7. I think, coach, like, we need offense. Let's put into our main guys, Marcus Green and Giddis. I know you weren't a fan of him, but he's actually one of their better players, if not probably their
Oh, no,
second best
no,
player.
no. I didn't have a problem.
Like,
I don't watch them enough. It was just I just
yeah,
lost my mind because it was just the same thing
yeah,
over and over. And then he just, I mean, chucked it, and I'm okay. This is so hard to watch.
yeah. And he did have a rough game. It was a bad game for him, but to have, in a sense, one of your two of your better players, just sitting on the bench when the game is starting to slip away. It's like, as a coach, you have to have feel for the game. And what was more disturbing was Cody Williams, Tom Beatty, the returning guys. I said this already. Got to be the worst backcourt I've seen at UH in since I've been a fan of UH basketball. I mean, that's how bad both of them are playing. It's turnover after turnover. Beatty, I think, everybody knows his scouting report. He has one move. It's either he's going to power dribble right, and if you cut him off, he's screwed because he can't go left. He has no left hand. Right? He's not going to be a guy that can shoot off the dribble. It has to be a catch and shoot three. So there's no offense there. Cody Williams is turning the ball all over the place, and it's not even like, he's like creating a play. It's like just passing to the next guy on the wing from the top, and it's like he throws it away. Or he dribbled the ball off his foot today with no defender like giving pressure. It's like, what are you? I don't understand. And then Hunter and I are like yelling at Gunnar when we're sitting in the front row, like, Gunnar, coach, put Green in. Like, we're both yelling at him. And in a way, he did listen, but he put him in with about a minute and 30 seconds left when they're down by 12. Game's over. Like, what? Like, I don't know if he was just trolling us at that point, but it's like, really? Like, for the last 6-7 minutes, you could have did that at some point, but you do it then when the game's over. I don't understand that. Like, make that make sense to me as a basketball coach, because that was awful. Just awful. So, that's the thing about Ganat, right? He can beat up on these lesser tier teams, but it's like, when we play these tough competition, yeah, we hang into the game, but can never really pull it out. And sometimes it's all hands on deck. I'm not saying it's all Ganat's fault or it's all Cody Williams' fault or, whatever. It's a full program effort. Like, you need the players to step up. You need your coaches to put your team in better situations. And it was all of the above for the wrong reasons why we lost against Nebraska. But good test nonetheless. They play for third place on Christmas. They play Oakland. I think Oakland last year was the Cinderella team, right? Was that Oakland? But I think like the entire team is gone. Yeah. Goki's gone. So no jacking up 23s for him. But they're a pretty talented team. I think the record doesn't speak for it, because I think they played like Kansas. They play all these top teams. So it's like they're battle tested. So I mean they almost beat Oregon State too, and Oregon State's pretty good. So
yeah,
just another year of disappointment, I guess, in the Diamond Head Classic. But I will say, if you can win 2 out of 3 in a tournament like this, that's a success, I will admit. So hopefully they can win on Christmas, because after that, that's when the real deal starts.
When the real season starts.
Conference play.
Okay. Well, we'll look forward to that, Matt. Hopefully they just get it sorted by conference play time. But yeah, let's close it out with some baseball free agency. So not a ton has happened, but the Yankees do make probably the 2 biggest splashes of the week, and they trade for Cody Bellinger, get him on the roster, and sign Paul Goldschmidt on what I would consider a pretty team-friendly deal. I think it's like 1 year, 13 or something like that.
Yeah, 12.5 million.
12.5. So I get Paul Goldschmidt took a little bit of a dip, right? But how many time All-Star and Silver Slugger, and I believe he has maybe 1 Gold Glove. I don't know if he has a Gold Glove, but
I think he's multiple Gold Gloves.
Yeah, I think he has at least 1, but definitely one of the best hitting first basemen when he was, in his prime. So, that is that's a great addition for the Yankees. But yeah, Matt, how excited are you after those 2 signings?
I think Cashman's doing a pretty good job, not gonna lie. I mean, I think last week when we talked, the Bellinger news was like, oh, it's picking up. And I think I said it was like, I'm almost like penciling him to be on this team. And then sure enough, like a couple of days after, they make the trade. But I think it just made sense from a roster construction perspective, because Bellinger literally plays the positions that we need. They got 2 in 1. because he can play the outfield
Mm-hmm.
left. He can play center. He can play left. Probably not gonna play right because Aaron Judge, but he can play left, center or left. Can't even talk, and he can play a good glove at first. So kind of a Swiss Army knife piece, that you can plug and play. And then obviously the Goldschmidt signing. So this was interesting because I really wanted Christian Walker, and I was talking to Wade like, man, Christian Walker would be great. He'd be
Mm-hmm.
great. But Christian Walker, the one downside, well, I should say two downsides to him are I think you have to give up a lot of draft capital that the Yankees didn't want to give up. And he's 30. I think he's going to be 34 going into next season. So, a prized free agent, going to have to give a multi-year deal. Do you want that baggage? Say he regresses in a year or two. Like, I don't know. But that's the negative side. I still would have probably signed him, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
But with Goldschmidt, like you said, it's a 1-year deal, 12 million. And the Goldschmidt had a terrible year last year by his standards, but I
Dude
think
was
the
an
last,
MVP like
yeah,
3 years ago. So
MVP, but the last like month and a half of the season, he was looking like Paul Goldschmidt. And it wasn't like he started hot and then he faded. It was like he was bad in the beginning, really bad in a sense. And then he got hot and started to play like Paul Goldschmidt. So worst case scenario, I think obviously you don't resign him if he does bad, but he at the very worst, he's a platoon player with Ben Rice at first. And maybe you can at the trade deadline, you can pivot if he's not doing so well and adjust accordingly. But for 12 million to potentially get, I don't want to say MVP Paul Goldschmidt, but you know, anything better than we had last year. Like, oh my goodness. Like Rizzo was great. He had his run, but he was declining. DJ was god awful last year. Like we didn't have a first baseman. Ben Rice had a couple key moments, but other than that, had that rookie, typical rookie growing pains. So very, very low risk, high reward signing right there with Goldschmidt. I think it gives balance to the lineup. Um, and yeah, I think we're looking pretty good. I will say the one underrated move that no one's talking about is they also traded Trevino to the Reds. And
mm-hmm.
at first I was like, who the heck is this guy? Like, this Fernando Cruz guy. Then I read his splits and his metrics. His K rate is like insane. It's like 14 Ks per nine. And that's something that the Yankees were missing last year. A guy that can strike out guys. Like the ERA looks ugly, but how many times have we seen this before with the Yankees? They trade for a guy like Clay Holmes or, a guy who's not doing well in one place, and Matt Blake does his magic and he turns him into a quality pitcher for this team. So Fernando Cruz, we're not expecting him to be, the closer of this team. We already got a bona fide guy in that. So if he can kind of clean up some things and keep that disgusting stuff, I think he could be a very underrated piece for this team. But as we've been saying for the past how many weeks of free agency, we need some lefty relievers still. It's Fernando Cruz is a righty, so I need Tim Hill back. And I'm making that Tanner Scott push. I don't care if the Dodgers want him. Go get Tanner Scott. That guy will
No,
lock down
I
the
want Tanner
bullpen,
Scott.
shorten the game for you. Yeah. You lose Wancho, okay, fine. We don't have to score 8 runs a game. Maybe we got to score 4 runs a game or 5 runs a game. But we can hold them to 2 or 3 runs a game with a dominant pitching staff. That's the way you can pivot. So just crossing my fingers that those 2 guys are next because I think that'll be good after that until the trade deadline.
Yeah. Yeah, Dodgers. The one sad thing I guess that I'm gonna have to talk about, Matt.
Walker.
Yeah, we lose Walker. Sad. I mean, kind of saw it coming with how, things were going contract wise and hadn't heard anything, but he goes on a 1 year deal. I think he gets like 20 something million to Boston. Um, yeah, it's always tough. I mean, two-time champ with us, obviously has the iconic moment, and had such a good postseason. Well, I should say after, he kind of got things sorted together, but finally looked like the old Walker. And that's why I was a little bit surprised we weren't able to bring him back. Um, I thought we'd be a little bit more sold on him. I don't know. Maybe this means Roki is definitely still a possibility. Um,
Oh,
but yeah, definitely tough to see him go. I mean, it's always tough, especially with I would call like the 2016 to 2020-ish Dodgers, like that's kind of like my I'll almost call them the second era um of Dodgers that I kind of grew, quote unquote, grew up with, but it's when I was obviously older as a teenager, the early years was like Matt Kemp and Andre Ethier and those guys, right? Then kind of transition this new wave of Cody Bellinger, Corey Seager, right? Walker Bueller, some of those core guys, Justin Turner, all those guys. But kind of tough to see Walker, who is one of the guys that have been around for a while. Tough to see him go, especially because of how well he performed this past postseason and closed it out for us. But wish him the best. Glad he was able to give us some of his best years. Hopefully he has a bounce back year, and you never know. Something about Dodgers going to Boston. Um, I think it's definitely still in play that he could potentially make a return. I don't think that's ever out of the question, but at least for this year, we'll wish him the best of luck. Hopefully he stays healthy and gives you guys a hard time because I don't know, he might like pitching against the Yankees. So he said he likes to pitch in the cold too. So might be interesting there, Matt. But then like you already brought up, Christian Walker does go over to Houston. Man, I think Houston's gonna be good again next year. I think they had kind of a reset year last year, but I mean I think they're still going to be pretty good. I think they got Paredes, right?
yeah, the
Paredes,
Kyle Tucker trade.
Kyle, yeah. Still got Pena, who's better glove than bat, but Altuve's still there. Now you got Christian Walker. I think that's going to be a pretty tough Houston team again. But yeah, Matt, I don't know. With all the signings, I think the Yankees have definitely been the most active, at least signing
I
the
think
biggest
so, which
names,
is crazy.
which is crazy. But I think that should give you hope because Brian Cashman, Jerry Jones always are kind of like weirdly synonymous with each other. So maybe that means this is a year that Jerry gets a little more active in the offseason. I don't know.
Oh my
Um,
god.
but yeah, interesting enough, Matt. I do think maybe the Yankees were better off not signing Juan Soto. As crazy as that sounds, how much help and value they were able to get so far, for the whole rest of the lineup. Because we said it, right, when we heard he was going to the Mets. Like, hey, Juan Soto might be the scariest hitter on the planet in the postseason, but you still need nine guys to hit and play defense. And I think it was interesting that I was looking at a stat that was brought up between the first, whatever, 7 years or something that it was between Juan Soto and Mike Trout. And can't even imagine if Mike Trout's first
Oh
7 years
god.
were on the market today. Because what would Mike Trout have gotten? Honestly,
Well,
at
he was
20,
better in basically every
every
stat.
stat, and
So
he is a gold glove defense, right? He has speed too, which Juan Soto doesn't, not really known as a bag stealer. Mike Trout went what, 30, I think, 1 year. And he
5 tool
can
player.
literally five tool player. So I can't even imagine what Mike Trout would have gotten if he signed his contract, today. Like
He
that would
would
have
be like at least 900 million. But you know what's crazy is what if Shohei was after Soto?
mm, that's true. Because now Shohei's almost underpaid, which is crazy, which is crazy to think about. But that's just how I guess we're on track for. Someone's gonna get a billion pretty soon. Like within the next 10 years, I can't even fathom that, by the
Less than
way.
that. If Soto's contract could be 800 million. He signed for 765 already,
Yeah,
so in like within the next 5 years, guarantee.
man, that's so scary. That's actually insane to think about. A
Who would be
billion dollar player. Like it's got to be
who's young? Like
like a.
the Gunnar Henderson sign?
I was gonna say Gunner. Oh no, I know Bobby signed, right?
Bobby
Bobby
signed.
signed.
Julio
So
Rodriguez signed.
yeah, he signed early. It's gonna be like a Jackson Churio type of guy, or
Mm,
someone like that.
sure.
If he can
Paul
elevate his
Skeens.
game, oh man, I don't
Paul
even want to
Skeens.
think about Paul's con. Nah, that's gonna be. I think he'll be in like the 800
If he stays
plus.
healthy.
Yeah, if he's able to stay healthy. That's the thing with the pitchers though nowadays. It's kind of like but
That's true.
because Jackson Churro's what 19 years old. The kid is 19, I think. Like
That's true.
even Jackson Merrill's pretty young, rookie of the year contender right there. Like if
Mm.
he continues to grow his game, who knows? But kind of crazy to think about what some of these contracts are gonna start to look like in the near future. But yeah. Um anyway, uh that'll be interesting to see. But why don't we wrap it on baseball there, Matt? And we can get to some of our quick hitters.
All right. Jerry Jones Award for the week. I was debating between two, but I'll just stick with one. But I'm going to go with quarterback for Tennessee, not Will Levis, the college quarterback, Nico Iamaleava. I mean, not necessarily for his performance, but for his antics. Um, I just thought it was very, very immature, I guess, or like lack of awareness for me. Um, he scores a touchdown, and you're playing in Ohio State. Your team is getting killed.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
You scored a touchdown. You're still down by multiple scores, and you go in front of the camera and you do the LeBron James silencer. I'm like, what are you doing? That is the most. It's just
I mean, I
immature.
like the
Like,
confidence.
I mean, I like the confidence, but
Yeah,
was
that's
that
tough.
celebration necessary? If you're up, maybe, maybe it might piss off Ohio State even more. But I mean, if you're up, it doesn't look as bad. But when you're down by multiple scores after you score the touchdown still, and you do that, like, and you're playing a terrible game, it wasn't even like he was like balling out, like he wasn't in the zone. Like he didn't look good at all. And he just ran in a 2 yard touchdown run. And to do that celebration, especially at Ohio State too, like
That's
I don't know,
bold.
very,
You better come
very
back to win the
bold.
game if
Yeah,
you're gonna do
very,
that.
very bold move. And obviously, we know the rest of the story. Ohio State just goes on and continues to bold rush Tennessee. So, yeah, just a very, it's a freshman mistake. Maybe he'll learn from it. I think has the talent and the frame, but I would say a little bit I guess underachieved a lot of people's expectations
Mm,
for what I thought he was going to do this year. So Nico, sorry, you're the foolish, not foolish fool. You're the Jerry Jones Award winner of the week.
okay, Matt. Well, I'll just give my quick fan tribute. You know what? I'm gonna give it to my fantasy teams.
But
So
you lost.
just to preface it, I'm in 6 fantasy leagues. Okay, so 2 of them I was already out of the playoffs from. I didn't make the playoffs in 2 leagues, but I made the playoffs in. Oh, actually, no, I did make the playoffs in 5 leagues. Sorry. Um, but I moved on to semifinals slash, I guess, quarterfinals for one, which is weird because I have to play all the way to week 18 in one league, which is dumb to me, but whatever. But I'll just say in 4 out of my 6 fantasy leagues this week, I won, Matt, 4 leagues by a combined total of 5.94 points.
What?
That was my margin of winning. Throughout four different teams, my winning margin combined combined was 5.94 points. So absolutely
What
ridiculous.
kind of Monday Night Madness did you have
Okay,
today?
so that's why I need to break this down. So it's actually not even Monday night. So the two closest ones happened um from yesterday. And essentially in one of them, Devon Achan, his 50-yard touchdown run brought me back from the dead. Instead of sliding, he ends up scoring. That brought me back within striking range, and CD took it home for me. His 17 and a half points, Matt. I ended up winning by 0.72 in
Wow.
that league because of Devon Achan's last touchdown. I also had Jason Sanders, by the way, picked him up. He dropped 21 points. Cincinnati's defense dropped 18 against Cleveland, and then CD kind of took it home for me. So that one was insane. Another one that I was playing against Brandon. It was Jalen McMillan on my team, and he had Bucky Irvin, and we were essentially neck and neck going down to the wire. But I got just enough out of Jalen McMillan, and it scared me because he would have had that touchdown pass. So it would have really, put me over the top. But I got just enough help from him in another league that essentially helped me win by, I think that one was like 2.5 points. So that was that one. And then um I had going into this week, and this one I don't really check it too much because it's kind of it's just not as important. But I had accidentally forgot to take Kamara out, so I had no points. And I didn't have a defense in, right? But I had picked up the Packers defense and I just forgot to put them in. Put them in today, Matt. I end up winning that by 1.5 points because they blanked the Saints and they had
What
three
the? That's
sacks. They
crazy.
had three sacks, two forced fumbles, and a pick, right? So that their 20 or their 19 points that they
That's crazy.
gave me a win over Tanner by 1.5 points.
Oh my God. If I was Tanner, I would kill you right now.
Absolutely sickening stuff. And then my last league, Matt, I mean, I nothing really crazy to write home about, but another one, I won by 1 point. So like, I mean, I had Kyle Pitts on that team. It was tough, but this one we do the IDPs. So that was an interesting one that kind of helped me get over the top there. But yeah, crazy week of fantasy for me. Got lucky, extremely lucky. I wish I got this lucky next week in the championship game, but at least I made it to the championship game in 3 leagues out of 6, which is, hey, I'm gonna say, not bad. I think just preface that 3 out of 6. I'm in the semis for another one, so that one's still alive. So potential for championship matchups out of 6. Like, hey, I'll
Mm.
take that. So hopefully I can win one of those and take it home. But at least yeah, had some good luck there.
Less dramatic for me. I had 3 semifinal matches. I only won 2.
Yeah, but I was like, it was actually insane because I was like, dang, I'm not gonna win. And then I purposely didn't watch the rest of the Cowboys and Bucks game because I was like losing it watching like CD and McMillan every time. So I'm gonna like take a nap or something, or I'm just not gonna watch. And then when I woke up and checked the score, I'm like, oh my gosh, I won. So yeah. But that was my tribute. Just really good, really lucky fantasy stuff. I might post it. Maybe we'll see. Do a little screenshot thing. But
I
that was
think you should.
mine.
I think you should gloat. That's worthy. And then
Yeah.
tag Tanner.
Yeah. I'll probably post them um after. But yeah, it was a fun week of fantasy for me. But why don't you round us out, Matt? Take us home here with our sports fact of the day.
All right, we are recording on Christmas Eve. So back in 1997, Chicago Bulls coach, I should say ex Chicago Bulls coach, and also ex Lakers coach. Phil Jackson became the quickest to reach 500 wins as a coach. He did that in 682 games. Also helped that he coached Michael Jordan.
That probably helps.
just put that out there, and then eventually coached the second coming of Michael Jordan. So
Also probably helps.
also probably helps that win total. So
Yep.
shout out Phil, one of the goats.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks, Matt. I think we'll wrap it up there. Had a good talk this week, but yeah, guys, thank you again for listening. Like we said, it's Christmas Eve, so hopefully everyone has a good Christmas, happy holidays. Please be safe. We'll be back again next week before the new year to do our last pod of 2024. But yeah, always fun. Like we said, happy holidays from the fan and fanatic to your families and friends out there, whoever's listening. We appreciate you guys listening. So thank you. And yeah, we'll be back next week.